Am I doing everything wrong? That is a question I often ask myself as I look at what I perceive to be the success of other authors, of other YouTubers, of other people my age. I have to wonder, am I doing everything wrong? And I have to keep reassuring myself that that is not the case. I'm on my own path. And for the first time in my life, I am not trying to conform to societal expectations as much as I have in the past. So whatever success I may have, it will not be on the same level. It will not be the same path that other people are following, because that's just not who I am. So even as I ask myself yet again, am I doing everything wrong? What really spurred the thought this time was that I'm still struggling with Haunt Season. The Amazon version, I do have a few copies in hand, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, I didn't get the entire order. I can't figure out why, because JT ordered a series of books after I did, and his came just fine. So this has been a challenge getting these in hand. But then yesterday, I got my draft to digital version of Haunt Season, which looks very similar to the Amazon version, but for some reason, it's thinner. So the draft to digital version is on the bottom. The back is a little bit different because draft to digital does their barcodes a little bit larger than other platforms do. So part of the issue may have been that we had to adjust the book cover to get it to fit properly. I think, let me see here, the page count of the draft to digital version is 217, and the page count for the Amazon version is 217. Has the same number of pages. So I cannot figure out why the two books are so different. I guess a lot of it has to do with the publishers. So once again, I found myself wondering, am I doing everything wrong? Because I don't have the same quality of book from the two platforms. We ended up having two different ISBNs, even though we purchased our own, and that has been a challenge that I've mentioned before. I'm wondering at this point if purchasing ISBNs was even worthwhile in the first place. There are a lot of different reasons to do so, because that makes us the publisher of the book, whereas in the draft to digital case, I believe the ISBN, since it was assigned by draft to digital, then they are the publisher. So I don't know, which is better, really? Is there a difference? So again, wondering, am I doing everything wrong? My books, once again, are not selling the way I would hope. JT is doing pretty well, which I'm very happy for. His Sheriff books, he's been selling pretty consistently. He's currently at Comic Coffee working at Maggie Book 4. So that would be the fourth installment of the Sheriff in Nevada series. He sold all 5 books of the Serving Salvation series from Bub's Bookstore last week, which was exciting. It was July 31st. I remember distinctly because we like to track how many books we sell throughout the course of a month, and it was exciting to have 5 sales at one time on the last day of the month. So we took some recommendations from Rob at Bub's Bookstore on how best to market the books there. They are being marketed on a shelf as they can be bought as a series. So the 3 Serving Salvation books can be bought for one price, and it's a little less expensive than buying the individual copies. And the prequels, Finding Salvation and Defying Salvation, can also be bought as a duology, which saves the person a little money. So whoever purchased those 5 books bought all 5 of them because they got a discount, and they were hopeful that the book would be something that would appeal to them. We also created a little sign based on Rob's recommendation, because he had another author do something similar, and that author's books were selling really well. He was having problems keeping them on the shelf. So So far, that experiment seems to be working out. And we do try to take people's suggestions, helpful hints whenever possible, but we also have to judge whether or not we feel comfortable doing things a certain way and whether or not it's going to cost us a lot of money. Because already we're looking at our profit and loss from this year. And even though we are selling books better than we did last year, we're still not making up the difference between our sales and the money we're spending on editing and cover design. Now, there are ways we could get around spending that much money on our books, but we're trying to make them the best product possible. We want to make them an enjoyable experience for readers. So we are willing to put out that money even though we're not seeing the returns. And it can be very discouraging, and we continue to wonder, are we doing everything wrong? Another thing I've been thinking about is this YouTube journey. I have seen a lot of videos recently where somebody would say, I spent 3 months posting to YouTube daily and I made this much money. And here I am, around 220 days into posting daily here on YouTube. I've picked up, I think, maybe a handful of followers this year, and I'm still not monetized because I have currently 40 followers. Now, part of the reason for that is, I'm not using the recommended YouTube thumbnail formula. I'm not using the preferred YouTube content that many people recommend. I'm just posting my life as it happens. And I'm hoping that at some point, some people will start to find that interesting and follow along. It may never happen, but I've seen all kinds of different advice from people on YouTube about how to make the channel better and how to grow your channel and how to monetize your channel. And many of the things that they recommend, I'm just not comfortable doing. I don't want to shell out a lot of money for software that will help me do things. Some of them are recommending using AI to help create things like thumbnails, which I won't do. So I'm going to Canva and I'm taking some photos from there. And I originally started using my own photos, but I feel that at least the Canva photos have a little bit of a better quality to them than what I was doing. So I'm trying to improve where I can, but I'm still going to draw the line somewhere. Whenever possible, I try not to use AI. It's very hard to avoid these days because, as I've seen others posting online, if you are currently searching for a movie on Amazon Prime, for example, an AI bot will show up and ask you certain series of questions. So if you're trying to search movies that you may already own on there, you're going to get AI assistance. And it's frustrating because AI is being pushed so strongly right now. I hate the idea of what AI is doing to our environment. We are already having challenges with the planet. I mean, how many fires are there currently burning at this point in time? How high is our heat index this summer? Some of these things may be natural, may be happening because that's, the way nature works. But I don't think humans are helping matters. And these gigantic AI data centers are going to be using up valuable water to cool their computers. And that will, especially in places like Nevada, where these, they love building AI data centers here because there's so much open land. But the problem is we don't have a lot of water. And they're trying to divert water from people who really need it, from our power grid and things like that. So, I try not to use it as much as possible, but it's very hard because it's so pervasive right now. And even though I'm not using some of the recommended avenues to make my books more affordable to produce on my end, specifically not seeking out AI help, I don't feel that I'm doing that wrong at all. That's where I'm going to stand my ground. And as much as possible, I am trying my best not to use AI for anything if I can, because I really don't like it. I don't like what it's doing to the environment. I don't like what it's doing to people. And that's my soapbox. And that's not really where I meant to go today, but that's just one way of showing that some people may say that I'm doing things wrong, that spending thousands of dollars a year on cover design and editing that I do not recoup in book sales is the wrong way to go about things. And I disagree because I have my beliefs, my morals, and I'm going to stand firm to them as much as possible because I feel very important, or I feel that it's very important to, I'm so worked up I can't even think straight. I feel that it's very important to stand our ground when we have a firm grasp of right and wrong. And I do believe the prevalence of AI right now is very wrong. I'm just, the wealthy people who are pushing this, the tech bros that are pushing this, there may be good uses for AI, but the way it's growing so quickly and the way that it's not being reined in by the governments that are supposed to be protecting us, which that's another tangent that I'm not going to go on right now. But long story short, that's where I'm standing my ground. And I do not feel I am wrong in saying that. So am I doing everything wrong according to certain people? Yes, I probably am. And in many ways, I feel very good about that. So if I don't ever get a lot of followers, that's just fine. I have tried posting more frequently across my various social media platforms, but I've noticed recently, and this may have been happening before, but I'm noticing it more and more as time goes on, I will get posts that I have already liked, that I've already responded to, that are days, weeks, or maybe even months old. And these are not reposts of an on this day type of situation. Like I posted a video last year, it came up in my memory, so I reposted it. No, old posts that I've already liked, that I've already maybe shared, that I've already responded to, keep coming up on my algorithm. So it makes me wonder, when I'm putting my posts out there, is anybody even seeing them? Will they see them when I post them, or will they see them weeks later? So if I currently have a book on sale for 99 cents for a short period of time, for example, and I post about that, if somebody doesn't see that until next month and that sale is already over, that's not going to do me any good, because if they go to the site and try to buy the 99-cent book and it's back to regular price, they're just going to be frustrated. So relying on social media is very problematic, and it probably always has been. So I'm trying to do my best to post on there as frequently as possible, but I think in the matter of time-sensitive things, it's very challenging to rely on social media to do much of anything for a small business. I did briefly try a TikTok shop because it looked like a lot of people were very successful at that. Then I realized that we had just as much luck on there as we did anywhere else. It was just added stress to my plate. And obviously, TikTok is promoting the videos where people are talking about being successful on TikTok because they want to keep people on the platform. That's the same thing that's happening on YouTube right now. YouTube wants to have people stay on the platform and binge watch things. So the recommendation is to create a series, make your videos binge-worthy, and have a strong story arc. But life doesn't work that way, And if things are not showing up sequentially, if they're not being pushed out when they're created, and I'm not sure this is happening on YouTube, but it's possible. If that is happening, then I might put up an episode, for example, of a story that I've created. And somebody might not see that episode until several of the more recent ones have popped up. So they're coming up out of sequence. And I find that challenging and frustrating because people want to watch things in order. I mean, you want to start the story at the beginning and go through until the end, which, that's obviously fine. And that's kind of, we write books with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And most people don't read the end before they read the beginning, because why would you? There are people I have heard who read mysteries by reading the end first and going back, but that's a whole different story. So every time I start thinking, am I doing everything wrong? I have to remind myself of how many factors are at play in what I'm doing. My decisions are such a small part of any potential success that I might have that I really don't know what to rely on right now. And It is frustrating. JT has made the comment pretty frequently lately that it feels like we are putting in all the work and everyone else is reaping all the benefits because we buy our author copies, we pay our editors up front, we pay our cover designers when we get the covers, but the authors themselves, people like us, all the money we're putting out before we have the product to sell, we're not recouping that. And that may be a marketing issue, but as I've mentioned, based on my recent experience with social media, is that really a problem or is there something going on? I do feel that certain people get more traction because maybe they've done something that a wide group of people will enjoy. Maybe they've gone viral. And the powers that be at these social media platforms or the algorithms themselves recognize potential money, and they're going to push those people even more. So the best sellers start out as, somebody thought it was a good book and shared it. Somebody else decided, that looks cool. I'm going to read it and I'm going to share it, which is the way it should work. But I think there comes a point where that content is being pushed so much that everybody else has very little chance of breaking through. And I have seen people commenting, especially on Book Talk, that it is a shame that so many well-known authors keep being promoted on Book Talk, whereas the smaller creators are being ignored. I will admit that it's hard to find smaller creators because so many books are published on a regular basis. So many people are using social media. So how do you find all those little, maybe hidden gems? And I really don't know the answer to that. So whenever I start thinking, am I doing everything wrong? I have to remind myself of all the factors that are in play at what I'm doing. I'm not going to be an overnight success. I never imagined myself to be one, even though, going back to being Generation Jones and growing up watching all those sitcoms where people would become, or would at least try to become famous by doing random goofy things, that's fun in theory, in fiction, but in real life, it doesn't work that way. And it's just having grown up with the belief that maybe someday that could happen, it is a little bit disappointing to get to this point in my life and realize that reality just doesn't work that way. And that's one of the reasons I entered JT and I into the America's Favorite Couple contest, was that I was hoping it would be a goofy, a silly, and even a helpful way, because the money, or at least a part of the proceeds, do go to charities. I was hoping that might generate a little bit more interest for us. And then when the actual competition started and I found out how many couples had thought, we should try this too, this could be fun, there were a lot of people. I think there were over 2,000 groups of couples, and the number of people in each group could range from 20 to 70. I think our group had about 70 people. So again, we're currently sitting at 4th place in our group. We have another elimination tomorrow, so if we stay in 4th place, we'll make it into the top 5 easily. It's always possible something can change overnight, but I've also noticed that a lot of people dropped out, or they've tried to drop out because they got discouraged by the whole thing. And I think that's a pretty common problem among people right now. I think we're all very discouraged about what's going on in the world, how we feel so little control over the course of our lives, whether it be the way AI is being pushed or the economics of our day-to-day life, the cost of gas, the cost of groceries, the fact that maybe the FDA is not doing its job when it comes to things like, making sure the lettuce we eat is safe. There's so many things going on that we cannot control. And it's very discouraging. And it's very easy to think that maybe we're doing the wrong things. And I really don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to encourage you other than to say, you're not alone in feeling that way. You're not alone in feeling helpless. You're not alone in feeling like maybe you're doing everything wrong when, you're still earning the same amount of money you always had, but your budget is just not stretching. And that's not your fault. That's circumstances outside your control. So the only thing I can say is, really try to get together with your neighbors and friends and family as much as possible. Try to collaborate on ways, maybe if you have one member of your family have a Costco membership and you buy things in bulk and then you share them among your family, you do things that will help bolster each other so that we don't feel so alone, because really trying to get through things in challenging times, you need a village. It's not just raising children, it's supporting each other as adults as well. And, I could keep going on this soapbox forever, but going back to my original thought of the day, am I doing everything wrong? In some ways, yes, based on recommendations by other people. And I don't know, honestly, the people who are giving these recommendations, how successful are they? That's another thing. That's another factor to consider. They may not be as successful as they appear. And taking their advice may not always be the best idea. So I think for the most part, if you're feeling like you have that question, am I doing everything wrong? Take a moment and think about how you feel. Are you doing things the best way you know how? Are you trying to get through this life without really compromising on your morals, on your values, on your humanity? And, I think that's your answer to, am I doing everything wrong? Is that if you are being true to yourself, then you're not. You may not be doing what everyone else recommends, but that's not always a bad thing. So if you are an up-and-coming author, as I hope occasionally somebody will follow along who has an interest in writing, and that you will learn from some of my challenges. But getting this in your hand in the first place is a huge accomplishment. And that's something I remind myself on a daily basis. When I look at our little bookstore, our little Two More Books LLC bookstore, and see all the books that JT has mostly produced at this point, I have a lot of them still up here, but they're coming. I'm going to get them out there. And seeing all of the work that we've put in to get these books out without compromising our morals, without compromising our values, we are trying our best to do things that don't harm other people. We are trying to hopefully entertain other people, and we're definitely trying to encourage other people. So our mission is to entertain, educate, and encourage, or I can't remember what order we had those in, but our mission is to educate, entertain, and encourage. And I hope in some small way we are doing that. So when I think about, am I doing everything wrong? And then I look at what we've produced and how we've produced it, I have to say no. When I look at our bank account, that's another story. But honestly, JT and I are having fun. We are happy in our life. He has said on more than one occasion recently that he'll just sit there and look at me and say, I'm happy. And I have to agree with him. I'm happy too. I really love what we're doing. I love how we're doing it. I love that we're sharing it. Whatever comes of this crazy journey that we're on, in many ways, we've been very successful in our marriage, in our personal lives. We have challenges like everyone else, but in many ways, we've been blessed. So, kind of my little pep talk for myself today, I think, because I was a bit frustrated, like I said, with the two different versions of Haunt Season, and how I put so much time and stress into getting these books out there and get very little attention on them. And then I'm looking at social media and how I'm using that. But then I see that I can't control a lot of what social media is doing. And I refuse to put out any more money for social media advertising, because Unless you have a lot of money, I think not even then do you get to the top. And I also feel that a lot of people, like myself, ignore ads because we are just inundated with them. So I haven't yet found any traction with large groups of people, and I don't know that I ever will. That's not something I've had a lot of success with in my personal life. And 63 years into this journey, you know, I don't know if that's going to change. I may only ever have one or two fans, one or two people who really resonate with what I'm doing. And you know, I have to be okay with that, because if I can make at least one person's day a little bit brighter, then that means the world to me. So, am I doing everything wrong? If I think about it deeply, I am not. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. I keep showing up and putting in the work, as I've been talking about this week. And, you know, my books may not be perfect. My life may not be perfect, but I'm really trying to do the best I can. And I'm trying to do everything on my own terms. So am I doing everything wrong? No. I'm doing everything the way I should. And I hope if you have stopped to watch this video, I hope that gives you a little bit of a reassurance, maybe, that just because you aren't where you feel you should be, that doesn't mean you're doing everything wrong. There are a lot of factors at play, and really what it boils down to is, how do you feel about what you're doing? How do you feel about the work that you're putting into your life? How do you feel about your relationships? How do you feel about the way you deal with the challenges facing our world right now, and things like AI that are very controversial and that are really being pushed more than they think they should be? I think those factors are more important than trying to compare yourself to someone else. And that's just something that I had to remind myself today, because I'm human. I have my up days and my down days. And if you've followed my videos, and you will notice that I'm usually a lot more upbeat in the mornings than I am when I post in the evenings. I have found that I have a very roller coaster kind of, I don't know, energy levels, emotions, things like that. When I get tired, my emotions definitely tank. So you will notice a distinct difference in the time of day and my attitude. If I post first thing in the morning, I'm usually much more chipper. I'm much more upbeat. When I post in the evenings, things can be a lot more gloom and doom, and my energy levels are just not great. So like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm human. I'm not an automaton. I am not some AI generated bot. You are getting to see me, warts and all, and I hope that resonates with some people out there, and I hope it provides a little bit of reassurance that you're not alone, that you don't have to be perfect, that you don't have to use all of those filters to make yourself look, you know, airbrushed and perfect and thin, and just don't. Try to be happy with yourself. Try to be happy with your life. That's what I'm trying to do. It's not always easy, but gosh darn it, I really think in the long run, that's the most important thing, is that we have to be happy with who we are, what we have, and as often as we can, because it's not always possible to be feeling like you're on the top of the world, but you're not always going to have days where you feel like you're down in the pit of despair either. So, yeah. At this point, I'm just blabbering. As JT is always telling me, I need to stick to the point, but I have a hard time doing that, in case you couldn't tell. Anyway, I do hope that you are having a good day. I know that a lot of people are dealing with fires and smoke and high temperatures, and I really hope that you are safe and as secure as possible. My thoughts go out to you if you are in areas that are affected by these big fires, and I hope that things are under control soon, and we are heading, you know, into the first week of August here, so we still have at least 2 to 3 more months of heat up here in the Northern Hemisphere before fall really hits. So we're going to have to stick together and try to get through this and do the best we can. So I wish you all the best. I hope you have a wonderful day and week, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. Take care.